Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all to Barcelona, to Spain for the second round here at SIMseniors. Apologies for the lack of camera, we're jumping straight in today as I am feeling a wee bit under the weather, full disclosure. Not 100%, however, we'll still be having a good broadcast today. We'll have a good race today and a lot to look forward to in regards to tonight's Season 10 Championship after a solid initial round from the likes of Wolfslen, Guillemar Larson, Wilson, Morrison and Zimmer, followed by Dismukes, Olsen and Jones. But we're going to go trackside as we are about to get away for the opening of the session. And the main thing that has been made clear right away is that this is a technical track with a good balance of low, medium and high speed corners. You don't need to do it too much, as you do have a fair opportunity to get a good balanced run in with your car regardless of setup. And this is where we're going to be seeing everyone give it their absolute all. Now, we join the track in qualifying, jumping straight into the action here tonight, and if you were here for last round or here for Season 9, you know how this goes. 10 minutes are dedicated to the first drivers on the course. That's drivers in the bronze or silver divisions, which we have 27 in total. 36 cars joining us trackside today. A little bit down on on last rounds, but still a really solid turnout. That's going to be our first set, bronze and silver alike, and then at the 10-minute mark, qualifying will be considered over. Bronze and silver finish their current laps, then return to the pit lane for the gold class to make their appearance. Alex North leads the charge for this first session, first set of laps. And let's see what the field has to offer here tonight. Got some real strong performers that will be hopefully giving us a good show, as things can very quickly change here at Catalunya. A one false move and you will be in trouble. Let's see, North all the way up to 270 kilometers per hour before diving down on the brakes into turn 1. Good opportunity for overtaking around that corner and solidifies through the chicane before you go to the long-winded turn 3. It's all about hanging the speed on the edge of mechanical grip, then power out to the outside on the throttle. Give it your best. Now, looking good through the first sector for the most part. Alex North, say, keeping a good line here. He's not pushing to the very edges of the track, but it's only the start of quali, so installation laps are a must. Of course, you can see the array of cars in the pit lane, knowing full well that they have got an opportunity to scope out the field, see who is the ones to watch out for, as we do see the classes occasionally commingle when it comes to the race. They all share the same track, remember. So it's vitally important that they understand their opponent. Into the hairpin as well, coming into sector 3. That's a pretty big corner, pretty important one to get right. Little bit of a skate to the outside there for the Aston Martin of North. This is the variant with the chicane. No GP shenanigans here. Just keeping the speeds down, and a final technical test before jumping onto the outside. Careful of your sausage curbs and making his way up to the line. First laps on the board. North comes to line. What's it going to be? It's a 46.1. Immediately outdone though. Radislav Visharek. What is in the tank? What fireworks is he bringing out here, ladies and gentlemen? I am seriously impressed, because look at that. It's just absolutely blitzed the times. Chris Wilson's going to come through into second. Paul Murray in third. John Mitchell fourth so far. So North has been thoroughly displaced. Despite being the first on the board, he's going to be by no means the fastest. Fastest in bronze for the installation laps now. It's Peter Smith, 46.5. As that's David Smith as well, lining up right alongside him. potentially relation, question mark. Dismuquez just coming up to the line, 46.537, 3 milliseconds between the two cars. I cannot believe that margin already being pushed to its limit. More cars coming up to the line shortly. This is Randy Zimmer as well as Quint Kallenberg coming up to the line here. Say, while we have a moment as well, say apologies to Anil for completely butchering his name last time out. I have since been informed by him that he goes by, say, Anil or Thirdson or both. So, much appreciated. And thank you for the translation help. And any other drivers who have a preference for their pronunciation of their names, reach out. I don't bite much. But here we go. Coming in nice and smooth here. This is Chris Wilson. Was on a big improvement, but in the end, it's only going to be a couple of milliseconds. John Mitchell coming up to the line, though. Big stormer, 44.5. He's going to leapfrog Visharek into the lead for the silver group of cars right there. Very impressive stuff. Dismuquez continues to be one of the leaders in class for the bronze cohort. A very solid initial showing. Very impressed indeed. Time is of the essence here because 10 minutes is not that long and about 1 minute 45 per lap. You haven't got many attempts. You're looking at 4 to 5 true attempts, counting cooldown laps and an installation lap, of course. A couple more cars now coming to the line. Here's Eero. He's going to need to get something legitimate on the board. Last best lap was a 47.9, so needs to get some improvements on that, and fast. A couple more racers making their way through. Is Robert Homer, for example. As well as continued improvements for many racers around the field. Visharek not content with allowing the upheaval of his pole position to slide. He's in that Ferrari. He's 2 tenths up. Let's see what he's got. Final chicane means everything. Good approach. Careful round those sausage curbs. Get on the power. But well handled. Keeping it narrow. Not jumping over the sausage curbs. Unsettling the car. Comes to the line. It's going to be a 44.3. Immense work from Visharek here. The number 4 Ferrari takes pole for silver. Brilliant stuff indeed. Dismuquez continues to hold top honours for the bronze class, but not to be outdone, as he has made an improvement on his previous lap. Peter Smith as well as Christian Sullivan could be knocking on the door, but they've only got really one more attempt. They're going to be running out of time soon, so they've got to make this count. These next laps have to count. And they have to be something special if there's any signs of a big improvement here. His knees bet coming up and makes quite the jump into 5th here, out of the mix of the bronzes, as most bronze cars have already headed into the pits. We'll see if they come out anytime soon. Eero comes through, 46.6. So he's gone with a chance here, but he's going to need a little bit more magic. In fact, having to counter steer. I think cooking it a bit too hard on the apex of that corner. Randy Zimmer coming up. He's 45.3 to beat, and he's in the top 5 against Niesbet. Comes up to the line to 45.4. Sadly, not quite there yet. Here's John Mitchell. He got leapfrogged by Visharek and now has a chance to get the takebacks. See a little bit of skip on the tyres there, going a bit wide, bit hot into the chicane, having to recover quick, but looks like he's got a decent exit, but losing a lot of exit speed. Can he bring it together? Come up to the line, lost a lot of time there, and unfortunately just was not enough. Major time loss in Sector 3 there. You could see that poor approach to the chicane was all she wrote. That was a death nail to that attempt. And he's got one last shot here, but Will it be enough? 30 seconds on the clock until the gold class cars officially join the field, and you most likely will see a good chunk of them already coming out their pit boxes and lining up at the start of the pit lane. Let's check in with some of them here, and you can see they're all lining up trying to get quickly out here. It's gonna be a mad dash for sure, as they're all lining and wanting to get a good position here. O'Neill, one of the last to set a time out of the cars that have currently joined us on track. Michael Bull, another one not seeing a time. Oh, a little bit too much there. I think cooking it on the curbs ever so slightly. And that's unfortunate there, as he's just losing the rear end. But now can see majority of the field now coming back into the pits, having abandoned their attempts or invalidated. And now it's time for the gold class cars to come out in droves. Curiously, no Linardis. I'm almost used to seeing that Audi right at the front of the qualifying pack, so it's interesting to see Lindblom out ahead of everyone. But even so, here is Lindblom. He's got a point to prove after last round's P5 result. He has got a point to prove. So really pushing for this one now. And I say, coming out of the previous round, GMR did get it on track, but was subject to penalty. So he's actually in second on the championship tables, as in following not too far behind the current Q leader. See any more improvements coming in from the bronze and silvers? Doesn't look like it. Looks like Visharek is the car to beat for silver, and Dismukes being the same for bronze. So eyes to the golds now. Lindblom leads coming out the chicane. Let's see how his lap stacks up and what observations we can make as we jump on board with him for the first run down the start-finish straight, second half of quali. Making his way down pretty quick. Jumping on the brakes a little bit earlier just to prioritise the exit speed and getting yourself set up on that chicane. The classic principle of slow in, fast out does pay dividends in racing. You can see he goes very wide, right to the curbs and the very edge of track limits here. I think part of what separates the gold class cars is just how much they're willing to play on the fine margins between an invalidation and a 1/10 of a second gained overall. Smoothly done through the first sector. Now sector 2, that uphill chicane can be quite devious, especially that second half with the right-hander. That is deceptively sharp and comes at you quite fast, so you have to be ready for that, or ready for a mouthful of sausage curl. Smoothly does it though. Into sector 3, straight into the hairpin, breaks out the crane. Down all the way to first gear. Careful not to spin the tyres. Gentle application of throttle, roll onto it as you get back into second gear for the second half. Through the chicanes. And it smoothly does it. A little bit of skate to the rear axle there. You can see many drivers doing that exact same thing. But what's the benchmark from the NSX as he comes to the line? Right to the edge of the track as always, and up to the top spot. It's a 43.2. What an initial showing. 43.5 coming in from GMR, and a 43.9 from Wolfslener, along with Björklund as well. Hermé impresses as well with a fine form. 43.3 here. So good to see him back on form here. They has had a good spell in Season 9, of course, but we did see flickers of trouble in previous rounds, in previous outings. As you can see, he's got that confidence in spades once again. Let's see, have a check-in on some of the deltas between the different cars. Ostrichars, they're currently out on track. You see P12 overall out of everyone there. So we have our marker as well, as we do have Vishrek currently stood P10 overall, 44.3. That is the marker for the majority of the field to beat. And some drivers getting very close within each other. You can see there's a little bit of squeeze come through as a Cutler in that gold, black and gold looking Mercedes AMG alongside Colin in the GTR. Colin being only 100th of a second away from Wolfslenner. Goes to show the margins and the pressure is very high. Here's Hermé on the heels of the field here. In fact, maybe getting a little bit sidetracked with dirty air. Let's see if he's still able to hold that time. Goes very wide. In fact, invalidates on the penultimate corner. Just coming out the chicane there. A real shame, because that otherwise would have been potentially a new pole time. Disappointing to see, but let's see if he keeps going. That purple and green skin. Chris Bourne. It's like half a second up. That's going to slot him neatly into the second row. And with a .357, he's barely behind Oscari. Amazing stuff. Interesting to see as they were just checked in on the chat, and one comment of interest, David and Peter Smith, father and son duo. Wow. What a pleasant surprise. Honestly, what a very pleasant surprise. It's very rare you get situations like that, and let me tell you, I'd head over shoulders, I would drop everything if my father would even humour me in some of my work and what I do for a day, let alone join me on an event like this. So, power to you both. Amazing stuff. And looking forward to hopefully a good race for you both today. So cherish that. Absolutely cherish that, because that is something very special right there. Hey, Larson coming up to the line. P15 position right now. Repping the classic Wolfpack mustard. Wolfpack mustard? No. It's yellow, but that's not mustard. Wolfpack Mustang, excuse me. And Larson doing very well, put it on the fourth row. Smoothly does it, and Larson takes a healthy gain in position. McNair now being displaced to P9 from a P5 initial. Let's see if he can claw some of that time back. Jumps straight back to where he was at the start of his runs here. So right back where he left off, but 2.5 minutes to go. That means you've got 2 effective runs left, unless you are at the start of the track, in which case, see what you want to do. Now let's see if anyone else has more in the tank as our final laps are making their way through. A lot of pressure, a lot of initial pressure on some of the championship leaders in particular. I'm looking to the likes of Wolfslenner, Gayamar, Larson, current top 3, but also Lindblom, who has got a bit of a bone to pick, I think, with the field following his difficult performance in round 1. He's a known, proven talent and champion here at SimSeniors, so it's only time to see if he's going to have that bite back, if he's got that fire still for the course. We'll see if Lindblom is going to get an improvement here as he's flashing purple up to the line, and it's just under a 10th improvement, 0.08 of a second. He's going to be parking it up and deciding, yep, that's my fill. My session is done. I've done exactly what I needed to do. Here's Bourne, unfortunately down on time, but I think he's setting up here for what will hopefully be his best lap yet. That's going to be Hellstrom just coming up to line 2 in the yellow and green. I do wonder, are the Wolfpack cars eventually going to run out of colour combinations? I'm all for design synergy, but one has to wonder if they're running out of car combos for pallets, or if they'll have to make the choice of maybe switching away from the Mustang, but I'm sure everyone's pretty well ingrained with that car by now. And of course, top-notch livery design at its base. So the fact it's so versatile speaks volumes. 30 seconds to go. Most of the field's actually pitted in. Nobody is really pushing beyond what they've already done. And as the camera zooms in very nice to that low-resolution hill, we can see Wolfslenner might be on the chance of a gain here. Homburg, Peyton, Hellstrom, they're all slightly up, but eyes on this Wolfpack car. P5, but all he needs is 0.2 of a second, and he's all of a sudden leapfrogged to the front row. It's all going to be laid down on the track here. Has Wolfslenner got what it takes? He's running pretty much equal. Ostrishard's making a big improvement noticeably, but it's also fluctuating. So let's not hedge our bets yet. Two Mustangs make their way to the line. That's going to be Wolfslenner and Björklund right there. Any improvements from the two? Nothing for Wolfslenner. Björklund, unfortunately, also about a 10th behind. Holmberg had a decent run in, but is not going to be able to preserve that out of Sector 3. And is also just slightly down on time. Ostrishars might have a chance here. He does leapfrog Hellstrom coming out of the session, as Hellstrom wasn't able to push much further than P13. Lastly, Peyton, last car on the field, and will be making his way round the final corner now. Is he going to have enough to leapfrog Hellstrom as well? Let's see here. It is going to be just about enough, and with that, our session comes to a close. So heading into today, folks, of course, Liam Blom with a return to form is going to be in pole position for gold alongside Herme in the front row and closely tailed by Chris Bourne in the Mustang. Going over to our silver class cars, Vischerek with a very impressive performance here at Spain, and certainly looking like the car to beat alongside a seasoned high placer in silver, John Mitchell, and Paul Murray not too far behind in that Pepsi Max McLaren. Following that, in the bronze class, we have Dismiquez continuing his run from the first round. He finished in first, and he's going to stay there in quali. It's P1 alongside Peter Smith, and very impressive stuff from him as well. Hopefully this bodes well for you both, as the father and son duo take to the track in bronze today, and Christian Sullivan tells in third. So we are going to go trackside in just a moment, folks, and when we do, we will be getting that full luxury of our grid walk. We'll get a chance to check in with every car, every racer, and see who people are betting for, proverbially speaking, and who is going to potentially surprise us out here tonight. Also, let us know in that chat who you've got your eyes on. If you've got any particular driver you want to send some love to, now's your time. Get that encouragement in, as the race is about to get underway, and a good race it will be. I know Spain isn't always the hottest on people's calendars, but I personally think it produces some exciting moments, particularly heading into that hairpin into Sector 3, as well as the start-finish straight. I think those are sort of hot spots, and those get some very good moments in, but enough of that now. Let's stop the yapping and start the walking. The grid walk is about to begin, and let's take ourselves through the entire field. Of course, we've gone over our top honours drivers from the front end. Liam Blom and Herme are going to be in your first row, both in the NSX, and both with very different approaches to design. Bourne's going to be our third place holder in the 118 Mustang with another Wolfpack car, number 208. That is Guillemar just behind. Of course, first on track last time, demoted to second, so he's got a chip on his shoulder he wants to wipe clean. 196 and 848, two more Wolfpack racers in the Mustang here. It's Wolfslenner and Larson, with McNair and Pedro Serrano completing row 4 in the Nismo and the BMW M4. Justin Cutler and Nicholas Björklund complete our top 10, and I gotta say, very sharp with the black and gold. It's a very nice combo on that Mercedes, and the bright orange really does pop for Björklund. Dark blue and yellow, Wolfpack edition. It's the 230 of Patrick Larson and Matthias Holmberg lining up just alongside. A little bit of digital camo, spike thing ups too. Over Poland theme livery, Arbos Richards here, the number 74 BMW, and James Payton here. Very nice, it's a D2 livery theme. Tommy Hellstrom is going to be in 15th position, and then you get to silver. Leader in the silver class is Radislav Visharek. Mitchell with a very nice throwback Rothman style livery on his 992 GT3, and Paul Murray with the Pepsi Max number 90 McLaren. Black and white name of the game, nice contrast on Chris Wilson's number 49, and then Hero. He's run solid and true with that livery since the start of SIMseniors itself, I'd argue. He's in P20. 21st and 22nd is John Gabbett with a sort of explosion and fire themed livery, and Alex North with the throwback McLaren. Beautiful stuff. Homer in 23rd with that trademark pink and purple combo, and then bit of green and orange for Craig Niesbet. Randy Zimmer in his classic bright orange Ferrari, and Disviquez with his purple 420 car. Simagic, many sponsors all over. Peter Smith with the 113 there. As we get into our bronzes, of course, you had Disviquez, Peter Smith in second, and Christian Sullivan with that chrome blue Porsche in third. Johnny Bowden, very bright and beautiful livery there, and you have a couple more subtle, almost regal theme from Diekman. David Smith in 31st. Beautiful livery from both of the Smiths, and certainly going to bring that synergy to the track today. Colomb, white and red, always Vodafone inspired, with a flat carbon look. It's Helge Olsen. Johan Tetru in the 747 AMD Ferrari, and Anil Thurton in the 157 Porsche right there. Queen Kellenberg finally alongside Michael Bull is going to complete your order. It's the number 23 and the number 97. Ooh, very nice with the purple silk cut Jaguar XJR9 inspiration. Very nice indeed. Of course, to all the drivers, you know the rules, and so do I. Keep it clean, do not die. That's the way it goes here. At SimSeniors, you've got to be very respectful, of course, of the drivers around you. And more important than anything, enjoy your time on the racetrack. We are here to have a good race. Don't be getting the elbows out too hard. Don't jeopardize the races for your fellow competitors. Show that sportsmanship, show that respect, and that will be shown back to you in kind. Racing's hard but fair. That's the name of the game. We're on board the helicopter as the drivers get their formation lap underway. Mandatory pit stop, but that's only for a refuel. Tyres are an optional choice. So it's interesting. Some drivers do opt for tyres and others decide against it. Strategic element. Can you offset the time loss from an extra set put on? They've seen a couple of predictions. Of course, that the Smiths will do well. We'll see some predictions that maybe Guillemard will make his way up the field. If Lindblom gets a breakaway, he might walk away with it. That's another prediction we're seeing. Time will only tell, folks. I'm predicting that Lindblom is going to be firing on all cylinders. He wants to affirmatively prove his place in the championship, so I wouldn't be surprised if he really goes gung-ho in these first couple of laps. But here we go. Down to formation speed. 60 Ks. As we come up to the lines, a little bit of a push to just get through the chicane, and now we're going to get everyone congregated together. Second round of the season, and already things are pretty hot with some contests already beginning to emerge, but let's see how they fare. It's green flag, the track is hot, and the second round now underway. We do have, I believe, a pit start for someone on the course. Not sure what's exactly going on there, but you can see it's chaos erupting. It's 3, it's 4 wide, everyone juggling for position as everyone wants to get some initial pushes in. There's a little bit of argy-bargy. There's Wilson off the track at the back of the field. We're on board with Daniel as he's got a little bit of a chance to push forward here, as do many others. Slight contact across the field. You can see John Mitchell alongside Peyton there, who's actually made a really big gain at the start of this session. 2, almost 3 wide coming into turn 4. Ostrissars making contact as well. It's all going on here. Holmberg trying to get a position up. A couple of the Wolfpack cars fighting. And there's going to be Cutler and Björklund chasing each other out of Repsol. Mild contact being made between a few cars as they dice for position between each other. They want to get some early positions without having to compromise their lines too hard. And of course, without coming into contact with any other cars. See, there's going to be, looks like a bit of a send. That's Björklund there in the orange. As him and Cutler are going to fight hard alongside each other through the third sector. We've seen the two get the elbows out, and Cutler bouncing between positions over the course of this first lap already. AMR, of course, looking to make good on his initial performance in the season and continues to be a major rival. As we see, there's Colomb off the side of the track. There's a big issue there. David Smith is much further down the order, unfortunately. Only just come into the chicane. So maybe there was some kind of incident there, or something went on either way. You see Colomb coming through. Anil on the back of Bodin. Strong managing to get an overtake on Mitchell as well. Throughout the start-finish straight, but first impressions and first chaos of the field. We can see Robert Homer taking an outside line out of turn 3, and that's not going to bode well for him here, as he's going to be under serious pressure. He could be even overtaken by the likes of Dismukes in the bronze class, so certainly not one to get too commingled in traffic. There was North going for a dive on Visharek just in the foreground there. There's a fight for 4th place. Sweeping moves from many. North not afraid to get the toes and claws and elbows and everything in between out there as he's going for this move, and he wants it very dearly in lap 2. One lap completed now. Visharek not taking this one line down. You can see he's trying to take alternate lines in pursuit of the position back. Feeling like a lot of early pressure mounting. Curiously, the leaders have spaced themselves out quite a lot. I would have expected these drivers to fight a bit harder, but they seem to have stayed out of each other's way in a curious turn of events. Cutler might go for a move on Cyrano maybe, but we're not seeing that much. We see Bull and Anil go for a bit of a joust between each other. Bull managing to get a bit of a jump up after starting right at the back of the field. Unfortunately, to this point, do not know what happened to David Smith to cause him to drop all the way back down to the bottom. Hopefully we'll have some answers of that in due time. There's a lot of hype heading into this with the father and son duo joining the track for the evening. Hoping for great things for them both, so it's a difficult start to be sure. Holmberg trying to chase down Patrick Larson right now. The gold class cars are really going for it, and oh wait, something has happened big time. As I just got a ton of yellow flag warnings, something is majorly kicking off. Oh my lord! Okay. Things have gone from bad to worse. We need to take that play-by-play, ladies and gentlemen. We are jumping straight to the helicopter. We're on board with Michael Bull now. We're turning back the clocks. What happened? What went on here? Okay, so had a severe incident, and that just had a massive concertina effect. So that is the most recent stage, and let's wind back those clocks just a little bit more here. This is going to be the number 6 car. This is Robert Homer. What many can argue might be the apex of the incident. So he's on the back of Randy Zimmer. You see Visharek and... Oh, no, actually, it's just ahead. You can see that is... oh, yikes. All right, that just got worse and worse and worse and worse. So that was the green and orange car. Trying to find out who that was. That was Nisbet. Nisbet coming in a bit too hot on the overtake. And that was the inciting event that caused such a massive pile-up to occur. Jeez, I know that does look real bad, but I do feel for him in a way. His could never have predicted to be such a chaotic moment. One could never really predict what happens when you get in an incident like that. Jeez, unlucky for many, as so many drivers getting caught in the crossfire. We have 4 cars heading into the pits right now, folks. No doubt having to deal with heavy damage and now having their races effectively compromised. This is going to be a blessing in disguise for some, but for others this is of course a major problem. We'll see a drive-through penalty for the 212 car of Pedro Serrano, I imagine for the track limits. So he's going to be displaced all the way down to the back of the field, and with the bronzes, most of which, say, it was mostly silver and bronze that were affected by that major incident, unfortunately. So that class getting disproportionately hit with a lot of drama and a lot of issues. A real rough innings for him there. Otherwise a clean start, but drama strikes in lap 4. Checking back in with some of the others. And back to the gold class side of things, as things hopefully will be stabilising following that initial kerfuffle. Here's Johan Larsson on the back of McNair. Looking like a chance here for an overtake. Let's see if he's got what he has in the pocket. Is there going to be a chance thrown? Cutler with a bit of a fight of his own further back, so not going to have to worry about it as Larsson. McNair is his target. He hasn't got to worry about any defensive compromises. All in the push now. Looks like a bit of a rough exit out of the final chicane, though. That's going to give McNair a little bit of a buffer, and if he can keep that up, hold the defensive positions, then we will see this fight become quite an entertaining spectacle. Back in the land of the Silvers, you can see Visharek, once at the front of the order, now displaced into P5. He's on the back of Alex North right now. John Mitchell, one of the survivors out of that incident from earlier, as John Gabbett was hit quite hard. I think it was Nisbet who went into the back of Gabbett. That was the inciting contact for that major pileup. We'll see what the rest of the field has to offer, of course, in due time, but spotting various battles across the field with this major strategic shake-up is Smith taking a chance, going for the shot on Bowden, and you can see David Smith rocketing his way up the field. There's one, there's two. Nicely done from the McLaren. I would argue finding peace in the chaos. Teteru's also dropping 2 positions, as Bowden's going to get past him as well. Visharek continues to go for the shot, and in fact gets a shot at the chicane after the hairpin. Going to have the apex and is going to lock in that spot after North goes a little bit too hot. Don't get too antsy on the throttle. Even the most planted of cars will look like they're on ice skates on the rear axle if you push the throttle too hard out of some of these corners. I mean, even with the likes of, I know it was commented on, McNair, he does like to push anyway, but Spain even more so with some of those exit approaches. Ton of pressure riding on. But there will be, in that pressure, opportunity. Visharek is going to be the leading car. Björklund on the back of Cutler, really giving him a run. And Lindblom gaining about 2 seconds to Hermé. So I think whoever said that, the prediction of Lindblom potentially running away if given a breakaway, that could come to pass, and it would fall in line with some of the performances we saw in Season 9. Larson and McNair continue to trade blows going through that final chicane just up ahead, but eyes on Björklund as he could have a chance for a real shot at glory. A bit of a rough exit for the chicane there. Dropping time and fast. We can see even further ahead is Larson. He's going to go to the inside as McNair's gone full defensive. Oh, coming on the brakes a tiny bit there. And spooked himself out. Oh, that could have been a little bit dicey there, but goes through and McNair preserves the position. Say Hellstrom getting a yellow flag and going off the side of turn 3, maybe a little bit of lift off oversteer. That's going to concede the position to Peyton and effectively put him at the back of the gold order. There is Serrano down in P23, but with his drive-through penalty, he's effectively marooned. Not necessarily party to this fight anymore. North and Gabbert all together now, but Gabbert making contact with Zimmer and North getting caught in the crossfire there, slamming into the front quarter of that Ferrari. And just like that, you can see how roughed up these two cars are. Not quite sure what to make of that incident, but let's get a bit of a replay. So this is Gabbert's perspective now. So coming out of turn 3, hot on the heels of Randy Zimmer. And the first sector looking fairly clean, but just looks like, yep, classic. Little bit of, not push to pass per se, but let's say we will see things getting a little bit dicey even so. There's North on the back of Zimmer right now, as Gabbert's actually relegated to the back of this trio. Both of them recovering quite nicely, as there is a car hot deep to the side of the field. I think, who is that? Is that Homer? I think Homer just overcooking the corner far too much there. And taking the extended route instead of the hairpin. Here's a question. I don't actually know. Are there any games on the market right now that make the use of that extension of the hairpin? Because as far as I know, most layouts in all games use that hairpin layout, the GP layout, with or without the final chicane. I don't think any games actually use that sort of extended runoff route. See Zimmer, of course, trying to recover. I wonder if the damage is going to have a lasting effect on their performance. Doesn't seem so for the moment, or at least not enough to deter them from fighting. We have Holmberg on the back of Björklund, so we'll check on those two as well. Yeah, I don't think it's Forza, because without wanting to go too much into that side, I'm very intimately familiar with the Forza games. So that's a whole nother discussion. Outside of this, Forza is my bread and butter. But that's one of the things that I would have thought. I think the last one that we saw properly was maybe Toka, a Toka race driver. I feel like that's one of those scenarios. Maybe the F1 games. I don't know if it's the F1 games. Whether that one actually uses it. Yeah, it's a curiosity. Let's see how the rest of the field is getting on. Is it Iro going for an attack on Hellstrom right now? He's going to go deep into turn 4. Go for a bit of a send there. Pretty well executed, I must say. Solid execution. And a well-earned overtake. Meanwhile, it's checking on Holmberg as he's hot on the heels of Björklund. Patrick Larson also getting involved there in the 230, but going a bit too hot. Going just that little bit too hot into that hairpin and paying dearly for it in track space. Holmberg looks to be the car in most desire for that position. So remember, he's in the top 10 right now, but got more points open up once you cross that threshold into the single digits. Half a second down, rough exit of that chicane, but can use a bit of slipstream for a tiny advantage. It's nowhere near as potent as you think it is, but it's still a difference. Drivers still will fight to keep you out of their slip. Hellstrom heads into the pits though. Curious for the purpose. We had 5 cars going for pit stops earlier. We had Niesbet, in fact, going for 2 stops. So he's only completed 6 laps here tonight. I've got to say, Lindblom is dangerously close to what many would consider a runaway. He's about 3 seconds ahead of Oscari right now, and by all accounts, he has managed to shift gears. He's half a second faster than Oscari's last lap. We can even see, in fact, say Hermé. Wait, Hermé's stopped on the track. What's going on? He's just stopped dead center of the track. There's something major going on. You can see the drivers having to avoid him. Something's very wrong here with that NSX. That Honda is marooned. And no, he's gone. He's fully gone, ladies and gentlemen. Hermé has disconnected from the session after briefly becoming an on-track hazard. He is out, meaning that Lindblom is well and truly in breakaway territory. 4.5 seconds stand between himself and Frederick AMR, one that could be considered his closest rival. Certainly the driver that gave him the most stress towards the end of Season 9. Yeah, Hermé most likely suffering from some kind of connectivity issue. Massive shame. Massive shame indeed. Hopefully he'll be able to bounce back for future rounds and make that one through. But credit to all the drivers on the track, and as mentioned by Engdahl in the chat, credit to him for no incidents caused or being an issue It looks like there has been an incident between a couple of other cars. Teteru and Queen Kellenberg coming together. Let's see exactly what happens. So first off, you do see Sullivan going off the side of the track. We're on board with Teteru right now. Queen Kellenberg on his inside. We can see heading into the chicane there, and going way too hot. So Queen Kellenberg right into the inside there, and contact made. Is he getting lapped there? That is Dismukes. Actually, no, is that getting lapped? No, it's a lap down, Dismukes is. So we'll have to see how things play out from this point onwards. Osterschals, half a second off of Hornberg. Just 1 second, folks. Just need to mute the mic for a moment. Thanks for the patience, folks. They just needed a drink. For those who missed the start of the broadcast, I'm not 100% right now, so having to occasionally just take things a little bit slower, have a couple of drink breaks here and there, make sure we're all good. So Murray, go for a chance on Mitchell here. Remember, this is P2 on the line, so a lot of marbles in this pocket. Murray hot. Goes a little bit to the inside, trying to slice a good line. Get a good exit out on Mitchell, but Mitchell really knows how to defend here. You can see he's holding the line very nicely. And despite best attempts, Murray can't really get a good angle or significantly better exit than Mitchell can. He's just holding his line, he's keeping well poised. Slightly better out of that chicane and final corner there, but you can still see that Mitchell's reading the situation. He's gone very narrow to the inside. Slipstream is going to play in, but the Porsche holds the apex. The two go side by side. Good defensive work, but Murray does have the corner. Really good racecraft from the both of them, as they're not afraid to push each other forward, push each other to that limit. Great racing. Amazing stuff. See a couple of cars heading into the pits as well. There's going to be Holmberg, there's going to be Zimmer. And the fight is very much on for many. You see Murray is trying to push his way through. We do see there is Colomb sideways. Think lift off oversteer or just traditional oversteer maybe. It's all on the table there. As we do see Holmberg now coming out of the pits. Where is he going to come out? Will it be in traffic, or is he home free? Curiously, Zimmer doesn't indicate, at least on the telemetry, that he's in the pits. So there's some kind of issue with his car, or what's going on. Not really too sure right now. Visharek on the back of Mitchell now. Did see the red and yellow Ferrari coming through. Fairly sharp. The Visharek going on the attack now, has a chance out of that last corner. Mitchell once again trying the same defensive strategy. It didn't quite work down here for Murray, but will it work for Visharek? Looks like a little bit less aggressive on the first corner here from the Ferrari, or at least doesn't have the straight line speed compared to. Might have a little bit more mid-corner push, but you can see he's washing wide here at that final part of turn 3. He's not quite able to hold the pace in the same way that Porsche can right now. Like, really good stuff here. I almost get giddy watching this because you almost watch the driver's mental processes in real time. It's looking at Visharek, the way he moves his car, you can tell he wants to get the position, but right now he's just trying to figure out a way to do it. He slices his car left, right, looks at alternate lines, tries to just go for a traditional slipstream, gauges where the strengths of his car is compared to the likes of Mitchell, who's a pretty consistent and solid defender, if unable to deal with surprise attacks. The drivers communicate with their cars, and it's really something to see once you sort of dig into those deeper nuances. But we are at the halfway point, and you know what that means. Not fish, but it means a mass exodus into the pit lane, as many, particularly in silver, are going into that pit wall, getting themselves some fresh fuel, getting themselves potentially a new set of tyres. And before long, we will see the top half of the field do the same. Gabbert. I gotta say, I'm impressed with Gabbert and how he's managed to recover from, well, at least stay out of trouble for the most part. He did have that contact that led to the massive incident earlier in the race, but he himself, he's managed to keep things fairly on the straight and narrow. He's not been too affected. He's been able to actually put on a good run against the likes of North and keep him in check. It's been entertaining to watch for sure, as the rest of the drivers make sense of the fallout. I see Olsen going, whoa, Olsen going way too hot there. That's the kind of run when you have a technical issue or just a very large misjudgment. You can say a similar story as well for many other cars. I mean, there's always winners and losers when you have a situation like this. There is always going to be major winners and losers. Zimmer is, I think, retired out of the pit lane, for example. He's been in there for over 3.5 minutes. He's not showing any signs of coming out anytime soon. And so I have to wonder if he's retiring out there, if he's going to disconnect out in the pit lane, or really what's going on. We have Dismaker's major issue. He's out and spun in turn 4. Maybe just taking a bit too hot into the gravel, but he's down in 34th and down last place in his group. So unfortunately, he's gone from 0 to 0 here in tonight's session. And he seems to be really struggling. He's not able to replicate the magic that was round 1. And only hope that it was more than a strike of lightning. And one can only hope that it's a sign of a season potentially to come. But as things currently stand, it's not looking good. It is not looking ideal whatsoever. But still, the session is young. There is still 30 minutes left in it, and you can see a mass amount of the gold class cars are now making their way into the pit lane. Some have opted to stay out, Guillemard being one of them. We have known him to take overcuts in the past. That has been a strategy that's gained him time before. So I think he's pulling out the strategic stops to make sure that he gets the best he can out of this race too. Nice, smooth sweep. This is the lap that counts the most. It's these crucial laps in the diverging strategies that's going to be the make or break for Guillemar's performance here tonight. Same you could argue with the likes of Wolfslener, McNair, Ostrachaz, Payton, Serrano. Or Serrano has taken a pit stop earlier, but that was the drive-through. So that's not going to count in this context. He has to take another one. And while Guillemar might not make that full deficit that we saw him lose, it will still potentially be enough to get Lindblom back in striking distance, and from there you can start to put on pressure and manipulate the field. Either way, he's going to be heading in alongside Wolfslener, as well as the likes of, for example, Niesbet, who is right up ahead of him. Ostrachaz also going to be making his way in, and McNair is going to be staying out for another lap more. So going on to lap 19. We do see the overcuts tend to have a positive effect, but anything more than a 5-minute overcut in this current meta, anyway, does tend to be an issue. Not like Season 7 or 8, where you saw massive overcuts and then a splash and dash 5 minutes to the end. That's not a viable strategy anymore. See Wolfslener, Guillemar coming through the pit lane now. Gabbert is going to be going into the pits. Question is, will the others be able to beat out Lindblom? They won't be able to beat him out, but here's going to be Guillemar just exiting out the pit lane. And very curious to see the time difference between the two cars as he comes out here. 3.5 seconds roughly. So he's actually gained a little bit of time. It's not maybe as much as he was looking for. I don't think that that's the gains that he wanted. He was asking for more there, but it is still a gain. It's a positive gain there. You can see Lindblom trying to get his way around the remaining cars on the field, but now has gained a pocket of his own, as North was his only real obstacle. Gabbert, Larson, both into the pits now. Zimmer is confirmed retired, I do believe. It's been almost 10 minutes and he's not come out the pit lane. I think that is a confirmation of retirement in all but track status. Sad to see. You never want to see a driver retire, but sometimes they make that judgment call. Peter Smith and Ibrahim Diekman, both in the pits likewise. So we can only wonder when the rest of the field are going to be making their way out now. We had a drive-through penalty being executed for the 331 car. That is, of course, going to be a Niesbet, and that's why he came in earlier. That was not a legitimate pit stop under his own choice. He had to do that to serve the penalty. Here's Peter Smith coming out and is going to rejoin the other half of the family on track. 23rd and 24th. Couple of seconds between each other. Do each other proud as you get into the second half. Can't help but be ecstatic seeing a father and son on the track together and sharing the same track space. Just can't be helped. See North and Serrano now heading into the pits. Serrano going for his genuine pit stop of the race. Holmberg in a little bit of a fight of his own, however, as Patrick Larson's in his crosshairs. As Hermé. Wait a minute. Hermé is back on the track. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't quite believe it. I thought I'd seen a ghost for a second there. But no, genuinely, Hermé is back on the field. He disconnected, he retired to the pit lane, but he's determined to see the race out on his own terms. And I have infinite respect for that stance. Hermé, I salute you. You go finish trackside. You go do yourself proud. I haven't really been paying attention. The last we saw of him on the broadcast fully, he vanished into the Shadow Realm. He parked up at the hairpin and he was gone. He disconnected. I'm sure that he's been running around the track for ages, but it's the first that I've properly taken notice of the fact that he's back, and I do apologise. But, wow, that threw me for a loop for a second. We've probably seen him 4 or 5 times and just not really quite called attention. So Larson and Holmberg continue their joust and they continue their struggle. Holmberg's actually managed to get ahead of Larson right now. The two of them go for a bit of a fight. So Olsen getting a yellow flag as he's reintroduced to the racing surface. And back now it's just ahead of Olsen or Thirdson. And a little bit further away there's Iro in the meantime, who is a lap ahead. Currently on lap 21. Okay, lap's completed right now. Let's see, Patrick Larson. Not quite done with this fight yet, but also further up ahead, Björklund and Cutler, two drivers who we've known to trade blows over the course of this race. There's going to be no different now. Say Niesbet pushing as well, just see in the background, but a bit of a slide to prevent him from truly holding the pace to the likes of Gabbett and North right now, who are continuing to push and really bring everything they can to the racetrack. Trading blows and looking for strategic options on one another. We're coming up to the final 20 minutes of the race now, and most drivers by this point have crystallised their positions, but even so, it's still got a couple of surprises, a couple of opportunities, the sleeves of many. I would not rest on my laurels yet, especially if I was someone, for example, like Cutler. I know the minute I take my foot off the pedal, Björklund's breathing there, down my neck, right away, no opportunity to rest. So you got to keep pushing. Might even get a chance to attack on McNair. But don't overexert yourself and expose yourself to more risk than you need to, otherwise you will be in some serious trouble. A well-crafted, well-considered strategy for everyone. It's mostly variations on the same strategy within that middle window, 5-ish minutes. Balance your stint times as much as possible, optimize your running. Tirano on the back of Mitchell here, trying to get back to the rest of the gold runners. Of course, had to deal with the drive-through earlier and hasn't really had much luck since. Let's see, here's going to be Serrano managing to finally get past Mitchell. Good execution out of turn 4. And now he can start pushing his way back up again. He has got the pace. He's on average running about a second faster than the rest of the Silvers around him. So with any luck, he'll be able to push maybe even on the likes of Isuri and get himself back into fighting order. But I've got to say, I'm mighty impressed with Isuri and Visharek both, as they have been able to sort of cleanly and silently run as front runners of the pack here in Silver. And you can say the same about Diekman, as he's on the defense from... Oh no, saying that, he's gone off the track, trying to yield the space to Lindblom a little bit too far, but David Smith in second place has been continuing to impress. Started strong, finishing strong by the looks of things. Really great stuff. Thank you, folks, for your patience. A wee bit of a coughing fit there. Had to get that under control. But here we go. Final 15. Hotly approaching. I know we say this a lot, but these final 15 minutes, this final phase of the race, falls into one of two categories. Upping the ante on your attacks, or consolidating the position that you are in. Take, for example, Ostrichars. He has got 6 seconds if he wants to catch up to Peyton and go for the attack. So it might be more worthwhile that he stays in his position, locks in the P11 because he hasn't got any threat from the likes of Isuri. Separate classes and 20 seconds away. If I was someone like Peyton, however, I've got Patrick Larson sitting right there. So I could serve to fight and attack a bit more. There could be a lot of positives there. We're going on a bit more of the offensive. Certainly a fair chance at some gains, provided you don't expose yourself to too much risk. But as said, a lot of drivers have now just found a confidence and found a rhythm. With some minor exceptions, like Serrano continuing to push his way up back to the rest of gold, everyone is fairly content in their own positions right now. We do have Visharek and Visuri going on a bit of a combat spree here, though. Visharek hot on the heels of the Porsche, looking to get a chance. You'll see that Johan Larsson is down all the way, along with Hermé in P33 even. Now the indicators suggest that he had a pit stop of over 5 minutes. So there's either some kind of issue or major damage that he had to resolve. Maybe he was caught up in an incident earlier, or I guess we'll have to find out if there's anything else to that story. But he's right down at the bottom. And not looking like the happiest chappy. He's going to have to do a lot of work for any chance of recovering any other results. Visharek's dropped off the back, but Björklund is getting once again close on the back of Cutler. These two have been fighting out for a got. The amount of the fights these two have got in them, it's beautiful, honestly. It's a passion on the racetrack. They're really leaving it all on the asphalt. I think these two are where we're going to stay for a little bit. where we're going to be for the time being. Although there has been an off-track incident. There's Quinn Kellenberg hot off the presses and into the gravel. Looks like there was contact with the number 230 car. So that would have been Patrick Larson right there. Maybe a back marker incident. Let's see if we can review that. Here's Quinn Kellenberg though. Running through and running slow, so trying to stay out of the way. Going through and just tip of the rear into the gravel. We'll see if there's a verdict on that one. Visharek getting a bit of a dose of reality as Serrano makes another move, this time on the attack into the hairpin. With just 13 minutes to go. You see Visharek potentially does have a chance to use Serrano to his advantage here. If he gets Visuri on a bad corner, then this could be a chance for Visharek to gain back time and ultimately gain back position. Teteru missing... Was that an attempt at going into the pits and missing the entry? I'm not really sure what happened there. Let's wind back the clocks with the 747. So you can see coming through into the chicane. Goes through fairly smooth. And yeah, so limping across the bumps. But then, yeah, just crossing over the line of the pit lane. Very curious. You can see Serrano has now got ahead of Visuri, and that's lent the opportunity for Visharek to go on the offensive and on the inside of the hairpin once more as they come through lap 27 in progress for these two. They're not leaving anything to chance. Session coming to a close means that the time is running out if you want to get a move in. Visharek's taken that to heart and he's gone for it. Yeah, so that could have been just pulling out of the way as well. That's a very valid point. Wanted to stay out of the way of the leaders, potentially. Right now, lap 27 under the belt. The leaders soon to start lap 29. It really is last chances now. Ayton within a second of Holmberg. See if he's able to gain time. To say, Peyton has been one of those drivers that's just consistent. Doesn't really come up on the radar all that often, but just brings a solid race and fairly solid result week in, week out. That's kind of what he does, and while he doesn't crop up on the radar very often, still does know how to be a good racer. In a way, that's kind of a blessing, and why he doesn't come up so often is because no drama, no fuss, just solid running throughout the entire hour. See, this is the interesting part. And so just taking a minute on board with Hellstrom as I've regained my composure a little bit. There's a lot of traffic management, particularly when you're in further up positions. I mean, look right now. You've got Cutler, Björklund. They're going to be making their way around. I believe that is Teteru right there in the 747 Ferrari, and running a little bit slow. Looks like there's some kind of issue there with his car. At least the rear looks a little bit bouncy. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But even so, going back to our point. Traffic management is a big part of these races. You're a gold class runner coming up on a bronze. You need to get round them safely. It's your job to get round them safely. The instructions for the slower car are just stay on the line. Stay on the racing line. It's going to be a two-faceted aspect, well, a two-faceted race for the gold class runners, as not only do they have to, of course, put on a good race, but they have to have that awareness of their opponents, awareness of good places to overtake slower cars, spatial awareness, moment to moment on the track, knowing how your opponents are going to react. It's a big ask. And that's a big aspect of why the gold class drivers are a cut above and why they are in that position relative to silver or bronze. You may have gold class pace in silver class, but the difference is how you can use that pace, knowing when and where to apply it. I always tend to say that a good driver is fast enough to make a move, but a great driver knows the right time to make it. Because a good move at the wrong time will not stick. It could be an amazing overtake, but the best drivers know exactly how to get you back, and so they will just retake the position at a later point, either quickly or over time with enough pressure. So that's the toss-up, that's the quandary when you are racing at a higher level, when you're racing at this level. It's a juggling act as always. And I'm not saying that the silver or bronze don't have to deal with this either. They have to deal with their own format of this same issue. The silvers are in the middle and arguably have the most, because they both have to yield to faster cars that are laps up, and they also have to navigate the bronze cars in the same way that the golds do. They're negotiating just as much of a minefield. And the bronzes, they have to be putting on a consistent race and trying to keep the pace up. They all have different challenges. And having this multi-class system, one can easily argue, does push you as a driver. It pushes you to be better. Some things can only be gained through experience. And this kind of scenario is no different. See, there's David Smith. Case in point. Trying to keep the pace up, but yielding to cars that are lapping him. Showing that good sportsmanship, simultaneously being a swift car. I gotta say, it's something that I really love about multi-class. It's that division. It's that level of sort of multi-aspect racing and those different battles, but also how you're dealing with these different situations. It's just something I absolutely love. And even with 5 minutes to go here, we can see that the track is still just as alive. It's very densely populated. It's got a lot of different races on that course, and whether you're fighting or just running clean laps in your own pocket of the track, it's such a unique dynamic. Now we are unfortunately saying goodbye once again to Hermé. Hermé has disconnected from the session once again. We do have Randy Zimmer going for the record of longest pit stop in SimSeniors history, as he's going for the record right now with 1,930 seconds and counting. Kellenberg briefly going off the track, but with just 2.5 minutes to go, this is realistically the penultimate lap is coming through now, as Lindblom halfway through his current and 4 seconds ahead of Guillemot. Now, I am seriously impressed with these front two. They've got such a large breakaway to Wolfslener, but Guillemot has not yielded in the face of any pressure. He's in fact been able to keep parity with his gap. He's been able to keep at parity, and that is seriously impressive. It really goes to show why he, along with a couple of other Wolfpack drivers, were the main competitors to Lindblom in previous seasons. So, keeping that tradition very much alive, very welcome to see, and as always, the drivers just putting on their A game, continuing to impress. McNair going for a potential chance on Chris Bourne here, so using the chance of the last run of the race. The leaders are, I believe, to be on the final lap here. It could be close within a couple of seconds. Really great stuff. Really drivers continuing to push and excel. Here's McNair potentially peeking the nose in on the final straight run. Bourne in his cross. And he's not going to be yielding for a second. Even going slightly wide out of turn 3 there. Bit of a compromised exit. Minor speed loss, but he's not going to let that deter him. Very narrow to the apex of turn 4. I think Bourne trying to go for better exits rather than entry points. Just seeing if he can extend that gap. Payton, much of the same scenario. Into turn 4. Very close to Holmberg. And really pushing with all of his might. Local yellow coming out. That's for the number 23 car. That is for Quinn Kellenberg once again, as he's had trouble coming through Sector 2. But as we go through the final chicane, one driver stands tall, back to fighting form and back to his best. After a rough innings round 1, he reclaims top honours in round 2. David Lindblom, congratulations, you are the winner of the first, well, for the first time here in Season 10. And I very much doubt that this is going to be the last. Second place is going to be Guillemot with a really impressive run of his own. Good strategic gain as well. A couple of seconds made the difference in the pits. He was able to keep at parity almost right to the end. Wolfslener coming in 3rd. Chris Bourne and McNair 4th and 5th. Cutler is going to be soon to cross the line next, 6th position, with Holmberg and Payton are going to be jousting as well, not too far behind. And then the rest of the drivers now making their way through likewise. Björklund 9th, Larson 10th, Ostrishars 11th. More cars now making their way through. You can also check in with some of the other field runners. Visharek is going to be coming through that final chicane now as the leader of the Silvers, and Diekman taking top honours in the bronze with David and Peter Smith. Beautiful performance. It's 2nd and 3rd in class. Amazing stuff. Beautiful racing from everyone on that track here, and you can see the rest of the field now coming across and through to finish. Gotta say, it's been a beautiful round here tonight, and it's been a round to remember, as for many drivers it's returning to form. For others it's a chance to take a shot at some much needed points, get a shot in the arm for their championship exploits, as we now complete the session here today. We didn't get to see everyone perform at their best, unfortunately. Tonight out, we had 33 finishers as Hermé disconnected, Wilson and Zimmer as well, not seeing the light of day. In fact, Zimmer got a disqualification, so that is part of why we didn't see them finish. But thank you as always to everyone for watching here. It's been a brilliant session and a brilliant race here tonight. Join us same time next week as we head to the Red Bull Ring. We head to the depths of Austria in the Styrian Mountains, and we're going to see a very different racing experience. I'm going to go rest my throat because it sounds like I've been gargling sandpaper and small rocks, and it feels that way too. But for now, folks, take care and good night.